Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there, so please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise, we don't make money, so check it out and throw some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks. Welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, the unbelievable, and the unexplained to try and make your world a little weirder. I'm Kyle.
Hey, I'm Niall. And I just wanted to say comedy's back.
Comedy's back.
It's good for this podcast because it turns out comedy is around again. It's legal. You
Fucking
can do it.
Finally.
I saw Naked Gun in theaters over the weekend, and it's such a stupid comedy. It commits so hard to being just like incredibly stupid, but it also like clever. I enjoyed it immensely. Go see the Naked Gun and support those types of movies don't get made anymore.
Yeah,
and the fact that this exists is such a joy. So go see it.
It was surprising, and I've been hearing a lot of positive reviews since it came out, and I was apprehensive when it was, announced because
yeah, it seems like what the fuck, but then Akiva Schaffer's directing from Lonely Island and of Pop Star and Hot Rod and he's done a couple other things. Chippendale Rescue Rangers.
Wait, really?
Yeah, he directed that movie.
There's a movie?
Yeah, we watched it together.
We watched that.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. Well, I'm glad comedy's back because I had a whole bit planned about how, well, I guess it's not a bit. Really, it was just a story about my real life where I used some slightly suspicious meat to make a...
You're going to Soylent Green it? You're Soylent Greening it up?
No, I just get a little paranoid about my meat. And I get paranoid about the food I'm eating,
Yeah.
But I had I had made a cafeteria style goulash, and I then had leftover meat.
So what makes it cafeteria style?
I think it's just not how you actually are supposed to prepare a goulash. If it was where would that be from? What location in the world?
Good Lord, I have no idea.
Well,
that's a thing that only exists in my brain because of cartoons, and I'm not getting accurate representation there.
Well, I made a goulash that, it's like meat and noodles, right, and cheese, and it was really great. It was delicious. But I froze the leftover meat, and then I put the meat in the fridge to thaw, and it's been a couple days since it's been a week since I purchased that meat. And I also I was raised by parents who were raised by parents who refused to throw away food and sort of had a bit of
World War II generation.
Yeah, exactly, which imprinted on me as well, which is insane. But I just didn't know what to make with it. I had very little in the house by way of things to zhuzh up the meal, so I basically made a meatball patty. And put it on a sandwich with a horseradish sauce that I made, and I mean, when I tell you instant diarrhea, I can't stress enough how instantaneous this was. So hopefully, people out there, now that comedy's back, you are allowed to laugh at me having diarrhea.
You can laugh. Yeah, and that makes that. See, I set it up so that story was funny instead of gross.
Right, right.
It's comedy.
Yeah. Now nobody's grossed out. Everybody's laughing, just chuckling along at home.
There is an extended Liam Neeson ate too many hot dogs and is farting his brains out.
Wait, really?
Sequence in Naked Gun, yes. There's a sequence where he's supposed to... This is early on in the movie, so it's not a massive spoiler. But I guess fast forward a minute if you don't want to hear this.
Okay.
there's a moment where they're trying to look at his body cam footage in an interrogation room with a suspect, and it starts at the beginning of his day when he's like depressed going to work eating a bunch of hot dogs, and then he starts to have awful farts when he's trying to do this pulling over this guy who has like guns in his car, and then he like has to shit himself, so he says, oh you seem good enough, you can go, and he goes and like has to take over a Starbucks bathroom basically, but then he then eats more hot dogs and it continues. Like it's like a full scene of Liam Neeson farting and shitting his brains out.
Not enough diarrhea and pooping and farting bits in movies anymore, I gotta say. Although there was like, when's the last time they put that in a movie? Dumb and Dumber?
Oh, there's been stuff since Dumb and Dumber, but like, what's Van Wilder was post
was that
Dumb and Dumber?
Post Dumb and Dumber world?
Yeah, that was like 2002, I think. And there a guy eats a whole thing of laxatives and shits into a fire bucket next to a bunch of faculty.
See, I conceive of the world, especially comedy wise, being pre and Dumb and Dumber and post Dumb and Dumber. And I just would imagine that the Van Wilder version of that, well, everybody knows, like, we're in a post-Dumb and Dumber world. We're not allowed to laugh anymore. So people are watching Van Wilder with just totally straight-faced, no response. But because of the Naked Gun, we can go back, we can reassess, we can watch that again, and we can laugh at the laxative diarrhea bit. Anyways, this has been a great opening to the episode. You know me, I love a good diarrhea discussion. But we do have a listener email to get to real quick. So this comes from Derek, who I believe has contacted us before. Derek, I just want you to know that I'm kind of chuckling at your email. I don't want to dox you, but I hope you understand that your actual email, I can see that this email is of a particular use to you, but I like that you're also using it to email us. So thank you for that. Derek says, Kyle and Niall, I'm back to tell you about my possible alien encounter. One night after waking up, I had a vague memory of running from a beam of light coming down from the sky. I ran into a field and hid under a truck. The light surrounded the truck and started to lift it. I felt my body becoming lighter, and that's all I remember. Now, I'd be more concerned about this, but I'm almost certain it was just a fever dream. But maybe that... Oh, there's a little sunglasses emoji there, too, after the fever dream bit.
Okay.
But...
So it's like a cool... It's like a cool story.
It's like a cool story. That doesn't mean fucking anything.
No.
Us saying, "Oh yeah, it's a cool story," like that's meaningless. So Derek goes on to say, "But maybe that's just how the aliens stopped me from questioning it. What do you guys think?" There's also a two-part big question that we should use for. Ooh, I actually really like one of these questions. I mean, they're both good, but I really like one of these. They're both big questions we should use for an alien episode, I think. Derek also attached some pictures saying, attached are my nudes. Please rate. These are images.
This is a full service email. I gotta say.
Yes, it is.
Like, it's content, it's nudes, it's big questions. Just doing the work for us. It's fantastic.
These are images mostly of the Fresno Nightcrawler, the beloved cryptid. With big, juicy, fat ass. There's one where cool. it's the Fresno Nightcrawler in sort of lingerie, and it says legs for days. There's Sibley stamps a book, Naked with the Fresno Nightcrawlers, an outdoor cryptid sex short.
Okay,
I have to find out what that is.
Yeah, we gotta see if that's readily available.
And what is it? Slightly Indiana tea. Oh, this is like they sent us a perspective. I'll have to show this to you now, but basically it is a perspective and I believe AI generated thing for like Indiana, like a tea for drinking.
Okay.
That features UFOs, and I believe, what the fuck is the name of the turtle cryptid from our hometown?
Fuck.
You know who I'm talking to. I'm assuming that's what
the
this is supposed to be. And it
Big
says
Dave.
Slightly sweet, mostly green. So hey, thank you, and I appreciate the sexy artwork of the Fresno Nightcrawler. I mean, that is a fat ass. It has to be said. So, but
Beast of Busco.
That's the one. Thank you. I think that's what that's supposed to be a reference to. So thank you. Do I think it was a fever dream? I'm going to definitively say no. And you need to find a hypnotherapist to unpack this.
I'm glad we both thought the same thing to begin with. You got to immediately go to hypnotic regression, the least accredited person possible that has their own find someone who already is pushing the UFO agenda and go through hypnotic regression by their hand.
Yes, unfortunately, I don't think Dr. Leo Sprinkle is still around. Otherwise, I'd tell you just seek the sprinkle.
Yeah,
but
it's like when I go into a grocery store.
Yeah. Or me when it's a hot summer day and I'm in my swimsuit and I'm walking down the street and somebody is watering their lawn. Seek the sprinkle. Words to live by. But hey, that was definitely real. So I would recommend checking out hypnotherapy, hypnotic regression. Anyways, great email. Thank you. Niall.
Yeah.
Niall. This week, I have been digging back into some of the more obscure pieces of UFO history, and I guess maybe it's less obscure and more forgotten, which I guess is also ultimately obscurity, right?
Yeah, they're two sides of the same coin.
Well, probably one of my favorite, I guess you could call sociocultural morasses of the halcyon days.
I guess you could call it.
That's what I'm going to call it. Of the halcyon days of UFOs is this the new spiritualist movements, the new religions and the cults that kind of accrued. They all got thrown into the blender of extraterrestrial speculation and stuff like that from that era. So this week, Niall, we're going to learn about Dr. Joseph Jeffers and the Kingdom of Yahweh.
Okay. Do I know this cult?
Or
do I just know similarly named ones that... Yeah, I don't think I do.
Now, you might have heard of them, or at least something to do with them, because there is a publication. I don't know if it's extant now, and I'll have to get back to you on that, because this is a part 1 episode, and I can tell you in part 2 that there is a publication that this group put out that survived Dr. Jeffers. So many of these new
very
age,
ominous start.
Or survived him. Well, this is from a very long time ago, but they did continue after he passed away, as I understand it. So, I should say also, I know. Warning up front, okay. I have to talk about racism, I have to talk about anti-Semitism, and I have to talk about cult activity. So, I know some of you out there don't want to hear about that stuff. Understandable. Just letting you know right now, before we get into it, that's what's coming.
Okay.
So, during this time, in the early days of UFOs and ufology, Dr. Jeffers was already notorious before UFOs came on the scene. He would, regardless, end up having this lengthy career doing what he did. He was very controversial, but nonetheless, I found that like a story like this, in a world of never-ending like promises of disclosure and stories of government cover-ups, this idea of like a shady UFO pastor who was there back in 1947, that just kind of gets buried under the deluge of the way UFO discussions happen now, and thus kind of forgotten. And that actually brings me to my sources. I have two main sources on this. There's the always fantastic blog, The Saucers That Time Forgot. And it's from the post Dr. Joseph Jeffers, UFO expert, written by Kurt Collins, actually this year in May. Plus another blog that I'm going to be looking into some more stuff on here. The blog is called Califia's Children. And this is in a post titled Joe Jeffers in the Kingdom of Yahweh, written by Michael Marinacci. And then I also at one point had to dip into the Encyclopedia of Arkansas website for some of this, so shouts out. Dr. Jeffers, Joe Jeffers, born in Roanoke, Alabama, son of a railroad worker. He was born in 1898. They were a family of 15 children. Many of these children would become foreign missionaries later in life. Jeffers himself would become ordained as a Baptist pastor in 1918. And here is, like, okay, obviously there's some, at least to my mind, there is some negative energies surrounding being a Baptist pastor in the early 1900s. This is an interesting time for stuff like that. But to make matters worse, Jeffers was a follower of J. Frank Norris, who, in the early years of American fundamentalist Christianity, that guy was a prominent leader of religious folks of that denomination. So Norris was militantly anti-evolution and anti-liberalism. He was based out of Fort Worth, Texas, and he had thousands of people who would come to his sermons and stuff. He ran the first American radio ministry, and he would later be tried but ultimately not convicted for murder and arson, all the while having this career. No joke, there's so much in this. If people out there have been watching The Righteous Gemstones, which I'm almost finished watching, there is so much of that shit that feels like Righteous Gemstones type shit. Like, if you recall, there's the episode about, like, the early days of, like, I think during the Civil War, of one of the Gemstone
the Bradley
family
Cooper
members.
episode.
Yeah, that's how this shit felt. Yeah. Straight up. So
where con men of the cloth.
Yes. Norris was fucking crazy. One of his primary goals as a fundamentalist leader was to destroy, quote, that hell-born, Bible-destroying, deity of Christ-denying German rationalism known as evolution.
Jesus.
So not great. Also, John Birch, who, you know, the guy who founded the John Birch Society, was also a graduate of Norris's seminary. The John Birch Society, Black Stain on Indiana, our home state. And in case you need a reminder, Alex Jones and his family were members of the John Birch Society and raised around the values that they gained from being in that society. And, you know, again, Norris almost definitely killed a guy. So this is the guy that our Jeffers would be following. In his article,
good start.
It's a fantastic start. So in his article, Marinacci points out that these craven, hardline, and biblically literal ideas gained a good amount of traction as a response to, quote, a society reeling from the roaring 20s, rapid social, cultural, and technological changes. So would you believe that things like World War I and Prohibition and, you know, whatever, would you imagine that this society and culture would cause fearful Americans to do that whole return to traditional small town values thing that we like to do so much? Would that surprise you?
Yeah. No, not at all. It just, they want to go back to the 1850s instead of the 1950s.
Yeah.
Like, well, it's the same shit all the goddamn time.
Do you think that, like, when settlers came over from Britain, they were just like, God, we got to return to British values? I don't think so. Honestly, I don't think so. And I sort of wonder where this mentality in the United States came from. I mean, I guess it's just sort of a conservative mentality broadly, but the idea of, like, oh, we have to return to these values. It's like, I don't know. I guess I don't always know what values they're talking about, but that
Well, neither do they. Like
that's true.
it's whatever gives them power. It's fucking.
Well, the point of all of this is that Jeffers forged his blade in the fire and brimstone preaching golden age. So, 1924, Jeffers marries his first wife, and yes, I said first because there are multiple.
Of course.
So this is a woman named Jessie Eubanks, and he ends up leaving the town to then preach on the revival circuit, and he holds those, classic tent meetings around the south central area of the United States. So he travels around, and he gains this reputation as being a very captivating speaker. But not just being a captivating speaker, but controversial. Like, he's very... The term that I saw being used was combative.
Sure.
And
that's a pretty common thing for popular preachers,
Yes. Apparently, he would have these revival meetings sometimes end in people getting into fistfights in the pews, and people would get arrested.
All right.
This is a pattern that will follow him pretty much his entire life, by the way. So over the years, Jeffers' militancy would intensify, and this was often in response to the political moment, but he had particular tenets that he never really let go of. For instance, he loudly protested about Al Smith, who was the first Catholic to be nominated for U.S. presidency in 1928. And apparently, to rally his followers, Jeffers declared that Smith would bring the U.S. under Vatican rule.
Yeah. That's people are really, there are a bunch of people that are really scared about like a Catholic president even to this day. It's such like a weird line to draw. I don't know. I don't get it.
To me, from my perspective, it's like a Christian in the White House. To me, it's, conservative, whatever. To me, my initial thing is just like, 6 to some, half a dozen to the other, like it doesn't really matter that much to me because it's all kind of the same shit to me. But I do understand that like there is probably a difference in how those people tend to behave, but it doesn't.
It all comes down to the fact that there's a figurehead at the head of one thing and not the other. There is there's not something like the Pope in Protestantism, because Protestantism is slightly less centralized, even though there's some stuff. It's so like the fear is that people who are of the Catholic faith are going to have split allegiances between America and then the Pope, and it just like that's just not how it works,
Yeah. Al Smith, the guy who had the presidential nomination, Democratic presidential nomination, mind you, he had also been the governor of New York, and so Jeffers, to kind of have his followers in lockstep of his ideology, to kind of, well, I'll just say what he said. Jeffers claimed that Smith had appointed black people to his staff while he was governor in New York, and this was his signal to say that a Smith presidency would, quote, revive Reconstruction's race-mixing horrors on a national scale if elected.
Yeah.
So there's the racism.
Good old boogeyman.
Yeah. Now, would you believe me if I told you that this guy basically started an inter-church war pretty early on in his career?
Oh, I would not be surprised to find out that this guy that's like inciting fucking fist fights in his congregation on the regular might have some issues with other people in the church.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to give you like sort of cliff notes on this, but in June of 1930, Jeffers went to Jonesboro, Arkansas for a revival meeting, and he's a very captivating speaker, very combative, but he was so successful doing this revival meeting in this place that Jeffers was asked, I wish I could tell you by who, but somebody asked Jeffers to replace a local First Baptist pastor after his like sermons and stuff.
Sure. Okay.
So in August, he went to lead a sermon as the new pastor, and a number of churchgoers protested that they're like, this new guy, we had no input on him replacing the previous pastor. So there were some people who were pissed off about it. Apparently others were just like, this guy's really good. And I believe, though, that the pastor was outgoing. So there was a pastor that was on their way out. I don't know the actual details of like why this pastor was on his way out, but
yeah,
Jeffers was just like de facto replacement.
So he was filling an opening, kind of, not
I think so.
Directly like kicking somebody out.
And then he was just quietly like replaced.
Yeah.
So, so people were upset. People protested this, and then ultimately another pastor was voted in, and Jeffers left. So he leaves. And then he returns the next year. And he comes there to preach about the second coming, which he was claiming was going to happen in May of 1932.
Okay.
Furthermore, he talked a bunch of shit about the pastor that had replaced him, as well as the local mayor, and he called both of them sinners and like reprobates and stuff. Like he just went after this guy who just... Honestly, I sort of imagine it's just like, I'm just doing my job as pastor here, and he just talked shit about him. Also, the mayor, the mayor there. He gets into fights with mayors. You'll find, he's got a problem with mayors.
There should be no authority over God, and he's God. You know?
Well, there is one authority, Niall, and we'll get to that.
All right.
So, again, this whole debacle caused fights to break out between Jeffers' followers and supporters of the local pastor. And when these fights broke out, police showed up, and the police are there to break things up. They end up arresting one of Jeffers' followers. And then the following day, this is another pattern, Jeffers led a mob of like faithful members who were his followers to the courthouse, where the man that they had arrested was facing trial, and Jeffers commanded that God should strike the mayor dead, and a riot ensued. So...
Jeez. All right.
So this guy's just stirring up shit everywhere he goes. So fights are happening. He's preaching and stuff, and it's just the fire and brimstone, basically charismatic yelling about hellfire or whatever. The National Guard is called in, and they show up to, again, try and calm things down, because apparently the police were not enough. A few days later, amid all of this, a tear gas bomb was thrown into Jeffers' revival tent, and then another month after that, the entire tent was burned to the ground. Now, wow. Jeffers, of course, said, these sinners here who don't follow me, they're the ones who burned this thing down and are attacking me. The Jeffers protesters said, this is a fucking false flag. Which, like, false flag is one of those terms that is coded in shit, but there is a history of false flag attacks happening, not in the way Alex Jones describes them, let's put it that way, but this idea here is like it doesn't sound out of the question to me. I don't have details. Like, I don't know if anybody had any definitive conclusion about whether or not Jeffers did it himself or got a follower to do it, or if it was actually people who were protesting him, but it wouldn't surprise me if he did this at all.
Yeah.
Because what this dude is basic. I mean, you said the words earlier. He is a fucking con man. So Jeffers set up a new tabernacle and chose a man named Dale Crowley to lead it. And then, again, Jeffers leaves Jonesboro. Then, less than a year later, he comes back in 1932. And when he comes back, he goes to Crowley and he demands control of the church. Crowley refuses, and so Jeffers gets ridiculously petty, and this is what I'm talking about with righteous gemstone style shit. He gets so petty about this that because Crowley will not give up the church, he sets up his own pulpit next to Crowley's in the same building. And so what happens is
wow.
No fucking joke. Churchgoers experience 2 sermons happening at the same time, side by side, every Sunday.
That's so fucking wild. Like, I you know, it would make more sense if he set up a tent next door, like,
right.
But just literally just like bringing up his own pulpit and just so that they're both yelling at the same time, obviously probably trying to like out yell each other. That is so.
I mean, it's
absurd. So right. You're right. It's Righteous Gemstones. Like
yes.
that would fit on that show perfect, and kind of happened on that show a little bit with some of the inner, you know, when there's kind of when Eli leaves, you know.
Yes. It's so ridiculous. I was just reading some of this shit that happened and just laughing to myself. So obviously this setup can't last. So by 1933, people were getting into fistfights during these sermons, and apparently other people who weren't getting into fistfights, or maybe they were, but I presume that this was a way to stave off fistfights. People would bring in shotguns and sit in the pews with their shotguns.
Jesus.
So this all eventually made its way to court. And the court sided with Crowley. So when Crowley went back to repossess the church from Jeffers, a fucking gunfight ensued.
Wow. Wow. All right.
So, I mean, Jesus Christ. So, a man that Jeffers had hired as a watchman. So Crowley has a bodyguard. Jeffers has a watchman. I think they have a couple other people with each other because they're probably at this point expecting fights, right? Mm-hmm. A man that Jeffers had hired as a watchman was shot and killed by Crowley, and this landed Crowley in jail.
Sure. Yeah.
So, okay. This is so Crowley. So it's like cartoonish. Crowley is in jail, and one day somebody pokes a fucking submachine gun through the bars of his cell and sprays bullets indiscriminately, and somehow manages to not hit Crowley at all.
Wow. This is so. That's just wild. So like. Now you've got this guy is putting out hits on rival pastors and shit. Jesus.
Yeah. So this, you know, somebody tries to kill him. And things were so out of control at this point that Crowley was moved to another town, and by January 1934, a jury found him innocent. After all this hullabaloo, Jeffers finally left Jonesboro, never to return. Now, this is why I had to go to the Encyclopedia of Arkansas, because this is an event known as the Jonesboro Church Wars.
Fantastic. All right.
Apparently, this, quote, soured the town's spiritual culture for decades.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to get involved in a church in that town either. If it's going to end in riots and gunfights all the time, that's fucking wild.
Yeah. The gas bombing, the tent, the like arson that happened at the tent, the submachine gun attack, and all of this. Nobody was charged for any of this. And you know, anybody who's like a descendant who has family who is involved in this stuff, mum's basically the word. Nobody talks about it. And all of this shit landed Jeffers in Time magazine. He ended up getting written about in Time magazine and newspapers, and this is the first time that Jeffers would get the major media attention.
But not the last.
Fantastic.
So, all right. This guy, look, he's a real rascal.
Yeah,
I don't like him. Don't like what he's about.
Rascal's a good word for what he is.
But man, he did some shit. All right.
So you're probably wondering why all this animosity? Like, outside of Jeffers just being a dick. Like, he's a dick, right? But there's more to it. And to help explain that, I have Marinacci from the blog post. I have what he said about all this, what it was that made him so controversial. So here's what it says. Part of the contention between Jeffers and Crowley came from the former's promotion of a strange and to many Baptists heretical theology. Around 1933, Jeffers embraced what would later be known as the sacred name theology, a movement that started within Adventist Christianity and preached its tenets for the rest of his life. Originating largely in the Church of God, Seventh-day, the sacred name adherents believed that along with emulating the uses of Old Testament Judaism, Saturday Sabbaths, Jewish holidays, kosher dietary laws, etc., they also needed to refer to the Father and Son in their original Aramaic names, Yahweh and Yahshua. They maintained that when one prayed to God, one was addressing a generic deity, and not the Elohim of Israel, whose exclusive worship was mandated by the Bible. Some sacred name adherents claimed they carried the Elijah message, after the passage in Kings 18:36, where the prophet Elijah extolled Yahweh as the true Lord to be venerated by the faithful. As for his son, sacred name believers claimed that Jesus was a Latin corruption of the Savior's birth name that referenced a heathen deity, Jesus, and that Christ was taken from a Greek pagan term referring to being anointed. To the sacred name followers, the son needed to be petitioned by the name his Jewish followers knew him, Yahshua.
Interesting. Okay. While I'm sure that there's going to be some wild stuff ahead that will make me regret saying this to some degree, I do think that it's interesting. Like, it's an interesting point to be like, you're being kind of general with your prayers.
Sure.
Maybe you should make sure it's pointed in the right direction so that those points, those yes. faith points get put in the right slot and don't get so that some doesn't end up sprinkling itself all over like Ganesh or something, like it's,
yes.
You got to make sure, you got to be really specific with the address.
Yeah. You've got some static. You got to tune your station there. It is really funny, but it's also like, I love the idea that this idea to me just necessitates there's an assumption that other gods exist. So are you actually monotheistic if you're thinking
that is the weird thing. Like it does seem like it's kind of backdoor saying, hey, other religions are also right, but they're just not as good as ours, which yes. I guess is kind of a thing that is in Christianity. Like, they will reference other religions, but a lot of times they'll be cited as false gods. Which then, if they're false gods and don't really exist, then why do you have to be specific in your naming convention? It's this kind of circular reasoning that you can kind of drive yourself crazy with.
Yeah, it also doesn't help that, worshipping a false god sounds fucking sick. They make that sound, really dope. To believe in the false god nonetheless. Kind of badass to me. It doesn't help their cause. But here's the thing. This is the broad belief of these true name believers. Dr. Jeffers is specifically extra insane and weird, okay. Of course. So I know we haven't gotten to the UFO stuff. I promise it's there, it's coming. But this is all important setup for the next big step in the career of Dr. Jeffers. So this sacred name movement was a thing, but Jeffers would be one of the main guys to bring it to the forefront of public media. So, in 1935, Jeffers founded the new religious organization, Kingdom of Yahweh. He had fathered a son, Joe Jr., in 1926, with his first wife, Jessie. And when the son was 11 years old, when Joe Jr. was 11 years old in 1937, Jeffers divorced Jessie and moved to that perennial hub of American-style weirdness, California. He landed in Los Angeles, and that's where he began preaching his niche brand of fundamentalist baptism and the true name at the Embassy Auditorium. So he's there, he accrues a sizable flock, and he opens up his own church called the Kingdom Temple. He also managed to get on the radio, broadcasting on local radio stations and boasting an audience of about 100,000 people. That's what he says. I can't say that with any certainty. He was on 2 radio stations there. It was here that he cemented himself as one of the most controversial preachers in the area, which is no easy feat, given that this is the place where strange new spiritual movements are being fostered. This is, again, California, Los Angeles. This area, shit's weird here. So he preached the Yahweh true name stuff, but also more of it. He had certain things that would he would really stick with him. So he preached heavily some anti-Catholic stuff. He would say things like, quote, "The Black Pope has had his hands in the political affairs here, but that is going to be changed." It's also here that he got really into anti-Semitism, speaking out against the, quote, "communist Jews who are trying to get a war with America." And he would also speak on the corruption of public morality through the Jews' control of Hollywood business.
Okay.
So
we got. Look, he's taking on all comers. He's trying to start it with everyone who's not directly following him. I guess
the anti-Semitism in particular is God. Let me. You know what? I'm about to say it, so I'll just. This is another factoid that really piqued my curiosity. I know that there are books about this guy out there, but I think a couple of them are really old and hard to find. And he also wrote stuff that I think is old and extremely hard to find. And I wish I could read it. I know I did just deliver the news that he was like a crazy anti-Semite, and then I was like, God, I wish I could read his stuff. But I'm just very curious to understand some context that I feel like I'm missing with the way these stories are told. But anyways,
look, he's dead. You're not going to be able to directly support him. I'm assuming he's dead.
Yeah, big time.
Okay.
So his outrageous and outspoken activities caught the attention of not just followers. Well, okay, I guess they're followers, but not in a spiritual sense. The House of Un-American Activities took notice, as well as the Los Angeles DA Burton Fitts. A congressional investigation actually uncovered alarming and bizarre stuff. This would be things like Jeffers going to Europe around 1938, and the way this was written, I couldn't tell whether they were saying Jeffers claimed this or whether the congressional investigation claimed this. But he is supposed to have met with Mussolini and Hermann Göring. Göring.
Jesus. Okay.
Hermann Göring, the war criminal. Mussolini, the war criminal. So they also, I guess, anticipated his anti-Semitic streak. And again, I want more details. I need to see if I can find a book or some shit. But they anticipated his anti-Semitic streak because this investigation also found that Jeffers had ties to the West Coast German-American Nazi Bund.
Of course he does.
What those ties were exactly, I don't know. These are all just what Marinacci says, and I do believe Marinacci's pulling from a book. So I'm assuming this is true. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at all, right?
It fits.
So, so Burton Fitts, the Los Angeles DA I mentioned, who also had taken up notice that this guy was fucking around and potentially could find out. He had heard this rumor that Jeffers was planning on burning down the Kingdom Temple, his own church, to get insurance money. And he had heard rumors that Jeffers was involved in a smuggling ring. And that he was also hearing rumors that Jeffers and his new wife, after the first divorce, Zella Joy, they were throwing quote-unquote wild parties at their apartment. So
all that tracks. These kinds of people always end up getting involved in some crazy shit.
Yes.
Is there any period where the church isn't dominated by fucking
maniacs? I think that you have to be a maniac to be a leader like this of a religious movement.
Yeah.
Honestly, that sounds very harsh, but there's another aspect here where he's making a shitload of money doing this stuff. And I firmly believe that the more money and power you wield over people, the more insane you become. It just you start to lose sight of what being a person is like.
Yeah, you totally lose touch with the common man, and like you see yourself as above them, and you see them as usable, as opposed to individuals.
Yeah. So like any millionaires or billionaires out there listening to this episode, I just want you to do some soul searching, I guess is what I'm saying, but not this kind of soul searching.
No. Go in the other direction. Go find compassion with your fellow man.
Yeah. So DA Fitz, he authorized wiretaps that were placed in Jeffers' apartment, and he hired an investigator named Vincent Higgins to basically go in and investigate them and try and get in with their activities and their inner circle and find out what the hell they were doing. So what they ended up doing is they placed Higgins in an apartment that was adjacent to Jeffers' apartment. And Higgins would occasionally run into Jeffers and claim that he was a screenwriter and that he was kind of curious about Jeffers and maybe was considering pitching a script to the studios in the area about Jeffers' life. So he introduces himself to Jeffers and his wife, and that leads to him getting invited over to their apartment for drinks in March of 1939.
Okay.
So what ends up going down on that night leads to Jeffers' arrest. It's complicated, but this was an arrest for immoral conduct, which you can kind of guess where this is going. So what ends up happening is this whole situation and the interactions with Higgins, it goes to trial for 4 weeks. And Higgins would testify that when he went there that night, Zella Joy, Jeffers' wife, showed up, opened the door, and was in sheer silk pajamas and in a glass of champagne in her hand. Now, she would bring him in and sit him down, and she would... every fact that gets revealed here is so baffling. She would sit him down, and she would pull out these quote-unquote French postcards, which he described as having novel sexual depictions depicted on them.
Sure.
And he was surprised by this, and Zella then would move over and sit in Higgins' lap. And she would say to him that maybe he, quote, needs a little instruction in the more exotic erotic arts. So, Jeffers is there too, and I guess Zella and let's call him Joe. They're both there now, and they both strip down naked. And after doing so, Higgins says in his testimonial that they, quote, gave him a visual lesson in lovemaking. This is...
You're just showing up at this preacher's house and you're getting a fuck seminar.
Yeah.
Jesus.
She shows you French postcards and then fucks right in front of you. And this is when Higgins signals the police, who are waiting outside the apartment in the hallway.
So it's a sting operation.
Yes, they break in, they have cameras and arrest warrants, and they capture this on film. So they have multiple witnesses during this trial. One of them was a member of the Kingdom Temple named Marguerite Morgan, and she testifies that when she was over there one evening, Joe had brought her back to the apartment for a nightcap, and Zella just answered the door completely naked. The same thing basically happened. Wow. She was given champagne and then shown pornography, and then they fucked in front of her.
So this is like a recurring thing. This is like what they do every Thursday night.
This is what they do.
Okay.
This is what they do. Now, in the newspapers, all of this was referred to as, quote, an unnatural act, which I guess part of this was like they were doing it for Morgan's benefit somehow. Like, this is kind of how they would spin it. There's these tape recordings that corroborate all of this, including apparently there was another testimony that there were just regular orgies at the apartment. And Zella, Jeffers' wife, in the pretrial testimony, claims that she had sort of, bought into the sexual, goof 'em up that her husband was into because, quote, I loved my husband and wanted to keep working with him to win him away from his peculiar ideas. But then she gets called to the witness stand and she just denies it all. And she breaks down crying and she says that her friend, quote unquote, Higgins, the investigator, had actually drugged the champagne and then induced them into doing immoral acts.
Wow.
And she says at one point she rips the microphone off that's attached to her during the trial and screams, "Oh, it's unfair. I'm not getting a fair trial." So when...
Sore loser.
Yeah, a little bit. Now Jeffers takes the stand, and he claims that he had been framed by the, quote, communist Jews, and he specifically names Jewish studio chiefs Harry and Jack Warner as the instigators.
How did they make him do... Okay, sure.
Which I do believe that Harry and Jack Warner are the fucking Warner brothers.
Yeah.
And they would deny any involvement. Higgins, the investigator, actually would sue them 2 years later because apparently he claimed that they stiffed him on $50,000 that they had... Okay, this is again another one of those details that fascinates me because Higgins claims that the Warner brothers stiffed him this huge chunk of money because they had promised him that if he could prove that Jeffers was a Nazi spy, he would get this money. Now, this sounds very House of Un-American Activities adjacent and like certain interests adjacent that like because those are the people who are suspicious of him being a Nazi spy at this point. That it sounds like maybe something shady happened there too, but it just happened to lead. It happened to be against someone who sucked. Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird little tidbit that I'd like to know more about. Now, ultimately, Jeffers and his wife were acquitted. The jury determined the whole affair to be, quote, blatant, sleazy entrapment. Jeffers, ever the petty performer, would take his congregation outside the courthouse to do a public mass prayer for the Jews and Catholics. So where they were on trial, he just gathered up his people and prayed outside the courthouse.
He did the fucking... What was that thing? There was a thing that people used to do where you would go to whatever... You would always meet at your school's flagpole to pray before school.
Oh, God.
And I forget
Christ.
the name of it, but they're pulling one of those things where it's like, this is just like weirdly public and showy for no reason.
It's
and
fucking
reeks
sarcastic.
Of, like, it reeks of like performative religion,
It's absurd. So Jeffers, who is always causing stirs, the media will show up to these things. A reporter comes up to him while he's doing this mass prayer outside the courthouse, and they kind of confront him about, or I guess they bring up the accusations of anti-Semitism against him. And he says this, quote, I'm not against all Jews. We're really all Jews, but I'm against Bolshevik Jews. They caused the Jews' downfall in Germany. I want to save my people from communistic Jews. I'm not a Jew baiter. How could I be when I'm a Jew myself?
He is?
Well, he's saying that we're all Jews because, and I'm assuming this is like have you ever seen the like Israelite thing in Christian communities where they like, there's like deliberation on who are the true like descendants of the Jewish people or whatever. Yeah. I think it's one of those things, right? Where like there's actually it's weird. And ultimately, to be very clear, what he's saying here is absurd and anti-Semitic.
For sure.
Really crazy stuff. Now, once again, I have to do a Cliff Notes version of this, but Zella, his wife, would eventually serve divorce papers to Jeffers. Mostly, I'm assuming this had to do with all the shit that just went down, but this also had to do with Jeffers declaring himself Son of Yahweh, ruler of the universe.
What did I fucking say earlier?
I know
this guy thinks he's God.
I know. You nailed it. And
they're all megalomaniacs.
Zella was also especially pissed off because part of this reveal that he is secretly God, part of this had to do with Jeffers taking one of his followers out into the desert to conceive a quote-unquote sacred child.
Not his wife, one of his followers.
No, one of his followers. A woman who... What's fucked up about this is it was a woman who, like, stepped up. A stepwoman of the congregation said, I'll do it.
Wow.
So this was all explained, and then here's another extremely bizarre layer to this. All of this was explained as the commandment of the Great Father, who commanded the universe itself from his home in the Orion constellation.
Oh, okay, so God is
out in Orion.
Okay.
The universe is on Orion's belt. That was a little Men in Black reference for people out there. Now we're like into full swing cult mentality. Jeffers officially proclaimed himself to be the voice of God on Earth. He married the young woman who gave herself up to have the sacred child. And this woman's name was Helen Viborg. Viborg. Veborg. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. And with her, he had conceived the sacred child, right? There were a few... Now, there were a few arrests. There were a few arrests for various things that, like, we could get into more details, but again, Cliff Notes. This would be things such as driving a stolen vehicle over state lines. Jeffers commanded his followers to join him on this illegal convoy to Florida, which he has a reason to go there that we'll get to in a moment. He also ended up renting a mansion on Laurel Canyon Boulevard for him and his flock, and he would charge followers anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000 to live with him.
Wow. Okay.
So he has this mansion that he's
living
renting.
with God is like
it's
that's
a privilege.
Pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I just wanted to give a really side shout out here, but like whenever I see the name Laurel Canyon, this part of California, it makes me think of Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon by David McGowan. And I just wanted to say, people who know about Haight-Ashbury and Los Angeles and all this stuff of this era and all the weird fucking shit that happened around there, David McGowan is for people who know, he's interesting. Let me put it this way. David McGowan is on my radar for somebody to maybe talk about some of the stuff that he wrote at one point. But he's, I think, most notoriously known for writing Program to Kill, The Politics of Serial Murder. And it's a whole subject, but Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon. I mean, my point is that Jeffers is just one of many bizarre happenings that happened in this area over the decades. So someday we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Now, he also owned a Palm Springs retreat called Yahweh Springs, which he planned to use as a survival base when nuclear war went down, which he predicted was coming in 1949. Now, I do believe Palm Springs is Florida, yes?
Yes.
I believe that's why he had the stolen vehicle convoy to Florida.
Yeah, okay.
So he was arrested at the Laurel Canyon mansion for disturbing the peace, but this time was only served with a zoning violation fee. Not long after this, Jeffers was sued by a number of followers for fraud. On top of all of this, the government organizations were still concerned he may be a Nazi spy, and media outlets would just straight up refer to him as pro-Nazi.
Hey, if the foo shits, you know?
Yeah, basically. Now, we don't have the time for every story of legal trouble that Jeffers found himself in over the years, but he also ran into trouble for failure to pay alimony and a parole violation. He would be in and out of jail a few times. One of these, this is one of my favorite tidbits. One of these instances, a judge questioned Jeffers about how he could afford payments on a car kept all the way across the country in Florida, to which Jeffers replied, quote, "Yahweh has all the automobiles in the world. He can use them anytime he wants. We have been in communication with Yahweh for years. In the back of my head is a two-way radio set I use to talk to him. It's two-way, you see, Yah going out to Orion and Weh coming back to me." Whatever that means.
Okay. Interesting.
This is a thing that he would do in court, by the way, where he would basically say a bunch of shit that boiled down to, "I'm the son of God, you can't sue me."
Yeah, which is like, hey, it's an interesting legal defense. Let's see how that one works out for him.
Very clever. So this dude's in and out of jail. He's accruing fees. He's just constantly in fucking trouble. Jeffers and his wife would wind up relocating to Phoenix, Arizona, to preach to a smaller congregation, about 5,000 people. And it's somewhere in this time between late time in California to moving to Phoenix that he would adopt the quote-unquote doctorate of divinity, hence the doctor title.
Okay.
Now, Niall, I'll give you exactly one guess as to what happened in 1947 that would change Jeffers' style forever.
Roswell?
Well, technically, yes. But probably more accurate to say the Kenneth Arnold sightings that kicked off the flying saucer craze. So flying saucers become a thing. And it's all over the newspapers. It's all over the place. People are talking about them. And I have some newspaper clips of Jeffers at this time. So I have Daily News, July 3rd, 1947. Jeffers says flying discs are real. "Flying discs are real," Dr. Joe Jeffers of Yahweh Temple told the audience at the Women's Club Tuesday night. "Washington knows what they are. I told them 4 years ago."
When did you fit that one in? Like, he went up to Washington and was like, "UFOs are a thing. You're gonna be mad about this in the future if you don't listen to me."
Well, all the people who had set up the bugs in this particular women's club where he was speaking are sitting in their vans with the information coming and going, "What the fuck? I don't remember doing that." Jeffers, I don't know if that's actually accurate to how bugs were done in 1947, but I know they were bugging him in his apartment. It says here, Jeffers' information comes from Yahweh on Orion, he claims, saying that the discs are the same mysterious aircraft that have been reported over Sweden and Norway. Jeffers, which I think that might be Foo Fighters, by the way.
Sure.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Jeffers described them as whirling discs that travel at terrific speed and are of the lineage of the V-1 rockets. Now, he has an interesting twist on what flying saucers are. He goes on to say, predicting that the saucers will soon cover the United States, destroying cities, Jeffers told his audience that Banning will be blown to bits. I believe that's the town. Banning will be blown to bits and covered with water as it was before in a relatively short time. The audience reaction was praise Yahweh, for Jeffers assured them that all who believe will be saved. Apparently no admirer of Walter Winchell, Jeffers named him the greatest traitor of all time and predicted he will be killed within a few weeks.
Wow. This guy has no shame. It's amazing. It's really something.
Yeah, and I have here a flyer for this actual event. And there's a picture of Jeffers smiling widely. It says, "Spiritual atomic bomb, truth about the discs, flying saucers and who is sending them. Is America already at war? If not, when will it come? Yahweh for power, protection, and peace, and the Messiah's true name. Yehoshua for salvation and security. Hear the prophet of the hour, Dr. J.J. Jeffers at Banning Women's Club, 2nd and Hayes, 7:30 p.m. every Tuesday in July."
Just got to sneak in a banning women's clubs in there.
Banning Banning is the town.
Oh, Banning is the town.
But you know,
I was like,
what is it? A nominative determinism? Oh my god, I really bungled that one. You know what I'm trying to fucking say.
Yeah.
It's so. Ah, God, it's so crazy. I'm just like, I love this. Eat it up. Chef's kiss. Daily News again here. Quote, detractors of the flying disc stories had a sharp rebuke aimed at them today by Pastor Joe Jeffers, head man of the Kingdom of Yahweh, a local religious cult. Don't laugh, men, the Reverend Joe said in effect as he described the plight of the pilots. The poor devils are dying. Which, by the way, he's saying the pilots of the UFOs, the flying saucers.
Sure. Okay.
It goes on to say, with his wife on his arm, the Reverend Joe met reporters at 1204 South Hill Street, Ham and Eggs headquarters, and immediately handed each reporter and photographer a spanking new table model radio. So he met up at a diner. The Ham and Eggs. It's fucking awesome. Later, he would have a press conference talking about the threat of flying saucers at a Los Angeles restaurant. Actually, that might be the Ham and Eggs thing. And he talks about how the flying saucers were actually flown by enemy nations and that they were, quote, sent by the Russians with the aid of Germany, Japan, China, and others. And he would say very authoritatively about, he would talk about how they were piloted, what their, the propulsion mechanisms. He would say very definitively, facts about them, none of which actually explained how they worked. You know what I mean? He would say, oh, well, the way that they propel themselves, well, it has to do with elevation. And then that would be, the comment on it that he would give.
Yeah, that's all he had. He couldn't explain it beyond that because he's making up bullshit.
Yeah, the propulsion is dependent on the elevation. That's exactly the kind of shit he would say. And he would even claim that the saucers carried poison that could injure the eyes and spread plagues. So it's funny because he's a UFO guy for a good chunk of his career, but none of it's about aliens. As far as I've been able to find, he doesn't really talk specifically about extraterrestrials, but there is that weird tidbit about how Yahweh resides in Orion's belt.
Yeah.
So I think that some of the alien stuff gets mixed in occasionally, especially because there's a point where he's in jail and his wife is handling things. But they are always talking about how Russia sends the saucers.
Yeah.
So I imagine he's afraid that, Jews carrying the Black Plague are piloting the flying saucers or some shit like that. So anyways, this is the beginning of his career working the scene using stories of flying saucers to start, and really it's less about alien stuff and more about predicting that an apocalyptic event is coming. Things like that. So we're going to get into that in part 2.
I'm hoping there's many more UFO sermons to come because that's some fun stuff.
There's some good stuff. Don't you worry. There is some good stuff. I mean, it's I was seriously just sitting laughing to myself reading the series of legal battles, him saying that he's the son of God so he can steal a car. It's so unbelievable. It's it's like a joke. It's like the Righteous Gemstones. Like we said, it's so ridiculous. Maybe it's best that this guy's forgotten, but here at least we can mine him one last time for comedic effect. So that's Dr. Jeffers part 1.
Okay. What a wild fucking guy. Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, it's really insane. Even outside of the fact that most of this episode doesn't actually deal with extraterrestrials and flying saucers or whatever, his story is so ridiculous that it's weird history to me,
Yeah, it's very entertaining. Yes. I people like this fascinate me. It's just the levels that people who have no shame and way more self-worth than anyone should have fascinate me.
Well,
they do such horrible things.
What good does shame do you if you're literally God on earth?
Exactly.
What's the point in having shame at that point? You're literally God on earth, and having shame would probably not make you as much money as just doing the necessary things that God on earth would do, such as preaching that the apocalypse is coming over and over and over.
And it would probably keep you from just springing fucking your wife in front of an unsuspecting person regularly.
It's so insane.
I want to make it clear, if that's something that everyone agrees to, more power fucking to you.
Sure, look,
but this was a total
I should say there's
unrealized sexual situation.
Absolutely. There's nuance to this where, like, I think it's kind of absurd, the idea of being arrested for, like, fucking your wife in front of somebody
in your own house.
In your own house, but it's like you said, it wasn't consensual apparently, and they did it unconsensually to a number of people apparently. But there is something sort of sinister to me about this era where it's like, you're moral indecency. We're arresting you for moral indecency because you want to have a big, an other watching you and your wife, suck and fuck or whatever. Like that. Yeah, that's
just leave the blinds open like everybody else. Like,
I think that there's a little bit. Yes. Yeah, just go ahead and leave the blinds open. I don't think that's illegal. I
don't think so.
Is that illegal?
I don't know.
Is it illegal to be getting sucked silly in front of the open blinds?
I don't know how that would classify, because does it matter who sees it? If a minor walks past.
Well, yeah. See, that's
make it worse?
A problem. That's a fucking problem. Does it depend on the act though? Does if a policeman happens to walk by, he's whistling, he's swinging his baton, and he sees you putting a finger in somebody's ass, is that the problem? But if maybe he sees you, sensually
going full hog.
Yeah, or sensually licking up. Oh God, I'm gonna stop myself.
Yeah, I mean, you can always finish.
I guess it just depends, or is the cop just God? I don't even. I first of all, I don't want to finish, Niall, and that's a very charged use of that word.
Yeah.
I'm just curious what the law is here. So if there's any lawyers listening, go ahead and email us. It gets weird podcast. It gets weird. Question of the week: what sex acts are legal with the blinds open?
Yeah. Can you get arrested for fucking with the blinds open?
Please let me know.
Yeah. Wow.
What a fucking...
I don't think that's the big question for us this week.
No.
But because I can't answer that one.
No, Niall, I do have a big question if you're ready for it.
Sure.
Okay. If you founded the Church of It Gets Weird, what are some things that you would preach about?
Oh, wow. I guess there's a lot of stuff. I do think that we would bring back the mythos of the kind of UFOs as TV content producers for the intergalactic.
That's part of the
stations. I do think that's part of the larger lore.
Yeah.
I do think that
I have a core tenet. I have a core tenet that, really, I would say Christianity should, and I guess all religions should broadly adopt. But my core tenet as the pastor of the It Gets Weird Church is protect dogs at all costs.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We're a very dog-centric church. Actually, I'm picturing a really fantastic church with stained glass windows depicting extraterrestrials, tall whites, grays, things like that. Maybe there's also stained glass window depicting ghosts and crypt, Bigfoot and stuff like that.
And a Mulder and Scully, we put them up in a window,
Patron saints, Mulder and Scully. In fact, we have those candles with their images depicted on them.
Patron saints, Scully and Mulder. The lesser saints, whatever you want to call the next tier down, Dean Winchester and Jensen Ackles.
Yeah.
Dean and Sam Winchester. Yeah.
But this would be a church where we would have stuff like that, but then also a bunch of very good dogs would just get to roam around the church while we were holding our sermons and whatnot. And, you could pet dogs. And really the sermons would just definitely be about protecting dogs, but also about, I do kind of want to incorporate your UFOs, aliens running the media, the intergalactic media network. And so I guess one of the core tenets would have to be putting on the best production for them.
Yeah, I live your life as if you're in sweeps week. Yeah. I do think that there is something to be said for a harmless religion that preaches absolute gobbledygook. and I think that we could fill that slot, like something like your flying spaghetti monsters,
you're a Pastafarian,
church, your Church
Ramen.
of the Subgenius, up to a point. I know that there was some stuff that came out of that, but like
yes.
something where it's like some kind of countercultural based thing that is, you're taking the piss out of it, and it is harmless but entertaining. I think that's a good place to live.
I do not want to take the piss out of religion with Church of It Gets Weird. This is deadly serious to me. So
okay. Well,
just
then that will be I'll be Martin Luther putting a rubber chicken on your door.
This is the split. Protestant It Gets Weird ism.
Yeah.
and fundamentalist.
So that makes you Catholicism and me Protestantism, I guess.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Our Pope is Mothman.
Hey, I think that's look. I can't beat that. You know,
that's right.
My Protestantism is not based around a central figure as is traditional. But behind closed doors, we are swaying public policy. Let me tell you that much. we got agendas.
No, I understand that. But if you fucking try and put your pulpit in the same room as mine when I'm trying to preach again, I'm going to freak the fuck out.
I figured what I was going to do is I was going to set it up in the back and then have people have to like choose which way they're facing, like Battle of the Amps style.
We preach back to back? Like...
I mean facing each other. You're at the front, I'm at the back, and people have to then kind of turn. You know how like at music festivals, they'll sometimes set up shows where like a stage on each side, and you kind of turn back and forth. I think we do that, and see who draws more.
You don't want to do Boondock Saints style back to back preaching.
I mean, I honestly want to do everything Boondock Saints style. So
it's a movie to emulate for sure.
It is. It's really a text to live by. Maybe that'll be part of the fucking the scripture. You do the fucking prayer from Boondock Saints.
Oh yeah. Oh shit, that's good. I like that.
Oh yeah.
Well, Niall, I've about emptied my gas tank for church jokes.
Cool. Well, I'll try to think up some more for next week.
I'm sure we'll need them. We're gonna need them. Ready to do some business?
Yeah. So if you want to find us on social media, we're on Twitter at IGW Podcast.
You can follow us on Facebook.com/ItGetsWeirdPodcast.
And we're on all your favorite podcatchers. If you listen to podcasts somewhere, look up It Gets Weird, and we're almost certainly there.
We're on Blue Sky at It Gets Weird. Go ahead and give us a follow there. It's a smaller following there, and therefore a more intimate community. Technically, when I do try and respond to people there. Also, give us a follow. Twitch.tv/ItGetsWeird. I'm playing Pokemon Fire Red Nuzlocke with friend of the show Colin. I know that's a big word salad, but I swear to God it means something.
For those of you who know what that means, you're excited about it.
Yes, definitely. And for those of you who don't know what that means, you're about to get excited by it if you follow us on Twitch.tv/ItGetsWeird. So check it out. It's a lot of fun. Talk with the chat. Play some video games. It's a good time. Email us, itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. I really want to know about that sex blinds thing. So lawyers get at us, let us know. But you can also just generally submit a story or a comment or whatever you like about ghosts, aliens, some thoughts you had on a topic we've discussed, whatever you'd like. Just make it reasonable. Don't get, I will say, we do have a very long email that I is very good, but I can't read in full. So one of the things that Niall and I talked about a little bit, and I mentioned it briefly, those long-form emails that are discussion-provoking like that, maybe we'll do like a mailbag episode at some point if we get enough of those. So please feel free, but just know I've seen your email. We haven't read it yet because it's a lot. That's all. I do appreciate it, though. So please go ahead and
we will talk about it eventually.
Yes, definitely. So hit us up, itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. Great way to get in contact with us. But if you want to support us, and I know you do, I'm actually holding my hand up like I'm holding an invisible Bible right now. Niall can see it.
Yeah,
I'm
doing
basically
a politician
preaching.
thing, yeah.
Yes. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. Go check it out. We have a $1 tier, a $2 tier, and a $5 tier. The $1 tier is the tip tier. That's the tip jar. You're just saying, hey, thanks for doing what you do. Here's $1. But at the $2 tier and the $5 tier, you're going to get bonus content. $2 tier, that gets you It Gets Weird TV, the bonus show where Niall and I talk about weird television. Speaking of our patron saints, Mulder and Scully, we are watching X-Files Season 3 right now. It's been great. People get to vote on what TV shows we watch when we finish a season of something. So that's a great place to start with your patronage. But you're going to want to check out that $5 tier because you're going to get every reward from the $2 tier as well, plus another bonus show in the off weeks, World of Weird, where Niall and I talk about whatever the hell we want. Lots of horror movie discussions, music discussions, even some stuff that doesn't make it on the main show about UFOs or stories or whatever. So go ahead and check out the $5 tier for the best bang for your buck. Huge back catalog of bonus content. Whether you donate to the $2 tier or the $5 tier, you get access to the Patreon feed where you get episodes 2 days early on Friday instead of Sunday. You also get access to the Discord where we're hanging out chatting with our listeners who have donated. So please, great stuff at the Patreon, patreon.com/itgetsweird. Check it out. If you can't donate, though, if maybe money's a little tight, we understand, but please go ahead and tell people about us. We don't advertise, and we've basically spread by word of mouth. We are orally transmitted, so please tell people about us. We'd really appreciate it. So if you can't donate, please tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your congressman all about It Gets Weird podcast.
All right. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for continuing to support us. This has been It Gets Weird, and I've been Niall.
And I'm Kyle signing out.